An early voice of opposition to the health care bill, Trump earlier today. So, Senator Paul, let me ask you about that meeting. What did the president say to you?
You know, I thought we had a good conversation. I thought it was constructive. I think he appeared to me to be open to trying to make the bill better. And he understands that he's got people come from all different directions, you know, within the Republican caucus. And it's going to take some work. And I think ultimately that's why the Senate leadership pulled it, is it's going to take a few weeks to get everybody together to try to figure out, you know, something we can all agree on.
After your meeting, you tweeted, Senator, just came from the White House. Donald Trump is open to making bill better. Is Senate leadership. So let me just ask you directly, what is McConnell doing wrong right now?
Well, it isn't meant as criticism. It's meant as a parlay. It's meant as an invitation to negotiation. We've been saying for 4 or 5 days now that we are a no, but we could be a yes if the bill becomes better. We haven't gotten any conversation from Senate leadership, so we're maybe, you know, poking the bear a bit here in order to try to get a little conversation started. But we've also put our specific changes in writing. We've sent them to the White House this afternoon. We're also sending them to the Senate Republican leadership to show them we have some very specific asks, and if they're willing to work with us, we'll see where it goes.
And what are any of those to do with pre-existing conditions, your specific asks?
It has to do with the idea of trying to legalize the sale of inexpensive insurance. As you know, each of the regulations that you add, there's about 12 Obamacare regulations, but each of them have a cost. So if you want to, let's say you make $30,000 a year, and with all those regulatory mandates, it costs $10,000 a year for you, and you're just a working guy, and you can't pay $10,000 out of $30,000, you have to free up people so they don't have all the regulations. Doesn't mean we don't want people to have pre-existing coverage. Doesn't mean we don't want guaranteed issue and community issue and pregnancy and dental coverage. But if you want everything, it gets too expensive for people to buy it. And that's the death spiral of Obamacare. Young, healthy, working class people were priced out of the marketplace, and sicker people got the insurance. And what happened is the insurance premiums went through the roof. And
right.
That's what we're struggling with right now.
So I understand how you're explaining pre-existing conditions, but let me ask you, because you mentioned pregnancy, let's just take that as an example. Obviously, it's something that affects both men and women. But if a young man who isn't going to be pregnant or isn't with a partner who's going to be pregnant doesn't want to get pregnancy insurance, I would assume you would say, okay, and that would make it more affordable for him to buy a plan, right? Just to understand?
Well, if you live in a free country, you'd have freedom, and freedom would be the freedom to choose both good and bad decisions, but also to choose what's good for you. The poorest people in our country are the youngest people. You get richer with each successive decade.
Yes.
So if you are 23 years old, and you're not married, and you're responsible, and you say, you know what, I need to save money for a car, or I need to save money so I can get an apartment, so I can move out from my parents' house, you know, those are important things to you.
Yes.
You should get to make the decision that you don't want pregnancy coverage. The government shouldn't be the one who says, oh, we know best, and that you just have to take or leave what the government tells you.
I understand your point and your logic, but then you would end up in a situation, if you take that all the way to its conclusion, right, where only people who are pregnant are going to become pregnant or paying for pregnancy insurance, which of course is a very expensive thing in this country to have a baby. So then all that cost is being borne by the women who are going to be pregnant, which doesn't seem fair, right, when it's men who are part of that process as well, to state the obvious, right?
I know, but I think the misconception here is that we're going to look at all Americans' life and see what decisions or contracts they might make that don't seem to be fair. If you allow the marketplace to work, the wonder and beauty of capitalism, the invisible hand that Adam Smith talked about, is that when everybody strives through self-interest to maximize their profit, interestingly, the great side benefit of this is supply and demand curves cross, and you distribute the most amount of goods at the least amount of cost.
Except
this
for, isn't it true in the case of
healthcare,
right, but in the case of healthcare, don't you end up in a situation where we all like to think that we're not going to get sick? So I'm going to buy the cheapest plan I can for my current situation, and then, God forbid, I get sick. I'm not going to bought the right plan for it. I mean, in a free market, that's going to happen all over the place. That's part of the problem here.
Well, what we should do is, rather than dictate to people what kind of insurance they can get, we should try to give them options. So, for example, the individual market, if you're a plumber and it's you and your wife and you're the two of you and you're the insurance pool, It's a terrible place to be. But it's not part of the free market. It's an artifact of tax policy dating back to World War II that said insurance is going to be tied to employment. If we weren't doing that, and if we said to the people in the individual market, to the plumber, you can join the Chamber of Commerce, you can join the Plumbers Association, you can join the individuals that want to group together association and buy your insurance as a group, you could get a way out of that individual conundrum, and you could get group policies. And most of the group policies actually have things like pregnancy. If you work for General Motors, my guess is pregnancy is automatically in your insurance because you're a big group and you have the leverage to demand it from your insurance company. So why not go for the biggest
group of all and just have insurance for everybody?
Well, socialism is not a good idea, and I know you can ask my friend Senator Sanders, but socialism is an utter failure. It leads to poverty. Look at Venezuela. Venezuela is one of the most rich resource countries in all the world. The average person there lost 20 pounds last year, not through choice, but from virtual starvation.
But you did just make a great argument for nationalized health care. You said the bigger the group, the lower the cost. So all I'm taking is your argument to its logical
I was talking about voluntary groups, not the gulag. But so no, I'm talking about when people go join together. Large associations are a good idea. Collective bargaining is not a bad idea. Labor getting together, but that's not the government doing it. That's just people getting together, have more leverage in the marketplace. So I'm all for trying to balance the equation with insurance companies. I think they have too much power, but I'm not willing to have the government break them up. I want the marketplace to